Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. We're up to episode number 69 if you are keeping score, and as always, I am your host, Rick Jenkins. Today, we'll be delving into another industry outlook. This time, it's residential real estate. The housing market is entering a pivotal year. Interest rates are coming down. However, unemployment rates are high, wages are stagnant, and home values are rising, so affordability remains a real challenge. So, what does all that mean for the housing market in 2026? Richard Cox, broker in charge at Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, will break down the trends, the risks, and the opportunities shaping the year ahead and what that means for homeowners looking to buy or sell. Richard will join me in just a moment, but before he does, I do want to thank our presenting partner, Haynesworth Sinclair Boyd. With more than 135 years of experience, they are a full service law firm serving clients across the Carolinas and beyond. The firm has more than 120 attorneys working from 5 offices in Charleston, Columbia, Florence, and Greenville, here in South Carolina, as well as Raleigh, North Carolina. What really defines Haynesworth Sinclair Boyd is its collaborative approach. Attorneys work across practice areas and locations to develop practical, effective legal strategies that align with each client's goals. The firm represents clients across a wide range of industries, including healthcare, financial services, construction, manufacturing, government, and real estate. Practice areas encompass a wide range of areas as well, including business litigation and corporate law, as well as employment, environmental, healthcare, intellectual property, tax, and regulatory matters. Thanks again to Haynesworth Sinclair Boyd for helping to make it possible to bring this content to the business community in South Carolina. And now I'm joined by Richard Cox, broker in charge at Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, Sedan Joyner Realtors. Richard, welcome to the show.
I really appreciate you having me on again.
Well, we did it last year. We might as well do it again,
That's true.
right? And it went well enough, and I didn't scare you off. So here we are again, and we're talking residential real estate. And I tell you, I love to have this conversation, Richard, because I think residential real estate is a critical indicator of where we are economically, economic conditions, because it's kind of at the intersection of a lot of things. It's a picture of consumer confidence or lack thereof. It takes into consideration things like home finances and where people are these days, and labor markets and credit availability. And so the whole thing together just gives us a good picture of economic momentum, or again, the lack of it. And so I want to talk about those economic factors right now. Interest rates, they're coming down, but wages are stagnant. Unemployment rate is up a little bit. From your perspective, what's the state of the residential real estate market right now?
So this year, forecasted by the Mortgage Bankers Association, is the first year talking about inflation and wage growth. This is the first year where wage growth is actually going to outpace home price appreciation since 2010, which is, you take that for what it's worth, but now what we're talking about is now the buyer is actually going to have a little bit more power, or at least a little bit more capability in their back pocket to be able to go and transact on a piece of real estate. That does not mean that real estate prices are going to go down. That just means that real estate prices are going to appreciate at a smaller percentage. It's forecasted this year. Last year, 2025, South Carolina real estate prices appreciated at 4%, which, let's go way back. We used to think that 3.5% appreciation or 3% appreciation every single year was pretty darn good. Now we had 4% last year. We just have in our rearview mirror 21.7%, 22%, 28%, 2020, 2021, 2022. We have that in the back of our mind, and that recency bias is going to lead us to believe that, 2% appreciation, that's not a lot. Well, 2% is better than nothing.
Yeah.
Especially when we have wage growth.
Yeah, but we still have an affordability.
We definitely.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. We need more affordable housing. And so that's on one side. On the other side, though, we're the fastest growing state in the country, or one of the three fastest growing states with Florida and Texas. We were the fastest 3 years ago, third a couple years ago. I think we'll probably be in the top five this year. So you got people moving in, they got to buy a house, right? And it's probably wherever they're coming from was more expensive than it is here. So you got that on the plus side. But the people who live in South Carolina, we still have an affordability issue.
We definitely do. And so again, there is kind of a dichotomy there with new construction
That's right.
and what we refer to as resale real estate. And so really what we're seeing right now is that new construction is having a much bigger boom in terms of inventory, whereas the resale market, they're much more inclined to say, I'm going to wait until the exact proper thing that is going to fit either my family, occupation, recreation, or dreams. Until that comes on the market, I'm going to be a lot more hesitant to put my house on the market, which is why the inventory has remained low for resale, but the inventory for new construction has tended to decline.
Yeah, makes sense. You know, I live out in Simpsonville, and Simpsonville is just growing like crazy. And where I live, which is Fort Shoals, West Georgia Road area, within, not an exaggeration, within maybe 2 miles of my house, there are 15 subdivisions that are at some phase of being completed. And of those 15-ish subdivisions, there is nothing that says in the twos, right?
Nope.
It's usually always the threes or fours or more, right? And so affordable housing, I think, continues to be a problem for us. But tell me this, Richard, how does it compare right today to where we were last year when you were sitting in that chair and we were talking about this? Any substantial change?
We're relatively flat. You could say that interest rates have softened slightly, so it has put people in a better position. However, if we're going to compare apples to apples from last year to this year, last year the average rent was $1,780. This year,
For how many bedrooms?
the
just
average rent was $1,780. This past year, it was $1,900. So 2024, $1,780. This past year, 2025, $1,900.
So rent is higher.
Yep, rent is higher. And now, granted, the only thing that is constant is that rent is going to increase at a 3% minimum level every single year. You can, at $1,900 a month, purchase a home for $310,000 and have a $1,900 a month mortgage payment. I believe that there is right now, if there is a difference between a year ago and now, it is an impetus on the real estate profession to be able to have more conversations to inform and educate people that need a roof over their heads to understand that the only thing that creates generational wealth in our society is home ownership. And to have a $310,000 house, and we were talking about in your area with everybody's looking at the 200s and the this and that, and so anything but within reason. But if there is an avenue to explore home ownership, there is no better statistic to share with someone than the average rent is $1,900, and $1,900 a month with 0% down will get you a $310,000 house.
But sometimes credit issues prevent people from buying a home, but not for renting an apartment, obviously. But I understand what you're saying. Average home value in South Carolina is $300,000. Now, of course, that takes into consideration a ton of rural area. And if you get into the cities, obviously it's much, much more than that. But if I'm just looking at the state average for home value is $300,000 and median sales price is almost $400K, a pretty substantial increase.
Yep.
Is that hold true for things you see?
Yes, it does. I mean, and then if you look at the median sales price nationwide, the median sales price nationwide is $412,000. So even still, when you think about it, the reason why people are coming to South Carolina and continue to come to South Carolina is still on a dollar cost average basis. We are still an affordable place to live, work, and play.
What do people want in a new home these days, and I know that is different for everyone. I get it. But are we talking home offices because of remote work, right? How much that has changed? Do you get a lot of that? People asking for questions about that. How about like outdoor amenities, green, energy efficient? What are people looking for?
More often than not, it's a primary bedroom on the main level. I think that there is a move away from vertical construction in some respects. If you want to have that downtown kind of feel, then you're not opposed to having a primary bedroom upstairs. But I think that more often than not, people are gravitating towards that primary bedroom on the main level. They're also gravitating towards not necessarily green or energy efficient, but they are much more inclined for smart features. So let's say a whole home hub where you can control the thermostat from your telephone, or the alarm system from your telephone, or the garage door. If you left the light on, you can do. That is a very big thing that entices people to purchase a home, or something that people are wanting. But more than anything, I think that where people still are gravitating towards is proximity to the things that they want to do, proximity to their job, and proximity to where they send their children if they have them to school. So still a tried and true perspective of it is, yes, we like the creature comforts of home, and we like things that do things for us. But at the end of the day, we want to have a home that is proximal to the things that we want to do and the things that we need to do.
Are we going to sell more homes in 2026 than we sold in 2025?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. To what degree do you think?
So all of the projections across the board lead me to believe that we're going to sell probably 10% more homes than we did last year.
An eye-opening statistic, folks, and there's been a lot of this floating around. In the next 10 years, South Carolina is going to grow by 500,000 people. Another 500,000 people will live in this state, and we're, 5.5 million population, something like that, 5.7, 5.8, somewhere around there. So you're talking about a pretty substantial increase. 500,000 people in the next decade are moving here. When I moved to Greenville 22 years ago, Greenville was a real hidden gem. People didn't know. Everybody knows about Greenville now, and people have always known about Charleston, obviously. But people are going to keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. That's good for you.
Well, I mean, if it can, it is, if it continues to be a great place to live, work, and play. Now, granted,
That's right.
15 years ago, South Carolina had barely 4 million people. Now we're almost to 6.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we can handle it because South Carolina traditionally has been a more rural state, even though we don't have as much geographical landmass as some other states do. But I think that as long as we can maintain our quality of life, we can sustain that population growth. And even too, if you wanted to look at, like, for example, the Greenville 2040, the original master plan for Greenville, the Greenville 2040 plan accounted for Greenville's metropolitan area to grow to 2 million people by 2040. We're more than halfway there now, which is amazing because we were less than 500,000 around 2008, 2009. So I think that we can absorb population growth. I think that we also have to be mindful about quality of life, which is the reason why so many people are flocking here is quality of life.
Yeah.
And if you can't maintain quality of life, then the reason why people are moving here
Evaporates. There's a tipping point at some point.
there is, and there always is.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that that is not too far down the road. Well, it's several years away, I think, but there is a tipping point that we will feel. Is this? I'm going to get you out of here in just a sec. Couple more questions. Do you consider this a seller's market or a buyer's market?
So there's a statistical aggregator that I look at on a daily basis. And so they have what is called a market activity index. And so a number at 30 means balanced market. A number below 30 means buyer's market. A number above 30 means seller's market. The number right now, as of January 2026, 44.6. We're not necessarily in a seller's market, but we are in a market that bends towards the seller.
Yeah. I hear you.
Just because you can't replace individual properties, just exactly the same way that you and I are individuals, every single house is a different commodity.
I'm going to get you out of here on this. How about some advice, some strategic advice for people right now who are considering either buying their first home or just buying their next home?
So the first thing that I would say for anybody that is considering buying their first home, I would implore you to find a buyer's agent that is willing to take the time to sit down with you and truly discuss your needs, and then help you access third parties, specifically a lender, to be able to help walk you through the process and help you understand and set expectations. Everybody has access to Zillow. And I can look at that and I can go click buttons on a computer and I can have this expectation here. I would implore anybody that's thinking about buying their first home to find an agent and interview multiple agents, not just one. Because the thing is that sometimes people just get the first one that they pick. And the first one they pick is the one that's the listing agent for the house that they look at on Zillow and say, hey, I like that one. Let's go do that. I would implore you to find an agent that's willing to sit down and take the time to really lay out expectations, so that for us, the only thing in our industry that stops a successful transaction is time and surprises. And a really good agent mitigates both of those.
Richard, good stuff.
Thank you.
It's good to have you again. I appreciate it. I'll see you next
It's
year.
always a pleasure.
Same time, same place next year. All right, folks, that's a smart guy right there. That's Richard Cox. Richard is a broker in charge at Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices and Joyner Realtors. And that's another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. Real quick, I do want to thank our presenting partner, Hainsworth Sinclair Boyd, one more time for sponsoring this episode. We'd have trouble doing and presenting this kind of content to the folks in South Carolina without their assistance. We'll see you next time.